Well, there's always a blooper that can happen just before you go live, of course. That's the vulnerability and beauty of going live. But anyway, I want to welcome you tonight to our show. My little ones here had made one of those old microphones with the strings, the two cups that you join the string to. And anyway, lo and behold, it works. So they wanted to see if it worked on the show, but I said no. So anyway, we're going to move on to the People's Platform here at 8 o'clock tonight. Mike Kelloway comes on. This will be episode 8 with Mike. He's been good and kind enough to come on and give us updates during the COVID pandemic and how it affects us locally and every which way. So he'll be on at 8 o'clock. I've been getting some interesting feedback. We had the fun of traveling on Friday to 12 different ports in Cape Breton Island. And let me tell you, I was inundated with the world of fishing quite quickly within 24 hours and had the chance to speak to a lot of fishermen down at the wharfs. I got to hear stories, heritage stories of families that have fished over the years. The license has been passed on down, but yet how things have changed. And it was really interesting to note the difference between the older generation and the younger generation and what the communication gaps were. It was really something. And then, with the older generation, not as computer savvy, of course, with the emails and so forth. The younger ones are keeping them up to date with all the new updates. But it was interesting to go along after the federal aid package had been put out on Friday. That the minister Bernadette Jordan had released, and then to go and talk to different fishermen and get their, understanding of it. There were so many questions that they had, and so I actually have been collecting questions over the past 4 days. Because tomorrow night, we actually have a confirmation at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. The minister, Bernadette Jordan, is coming on Ripple Effects. So if you have any questions that you'd like to get in there, I have so far sent her, from everyone, I have sent her 8 questions. Plus, there's room for a couple more. So definitely get those in tonight. I'm just going to go over here to our comments. Hello from Glace Bay. Hello, Brian Morgan Hooter from Glace Bay. Hello, how are you doing, Brian? What's everyone up to? How are you doing? I don't know about you, but I think I've experienced a bit of shack wackiness in the past couple weeks, especially those of you with kids. But the restrictions have been lifted, so it's kind of nice that we actually get to go out and do some things now. And I'm pretty stoked about the new announcements for June. I hear there's some nice things coming down the pipe about the parks opening up. Really, really exciting news. Now, I want to get out to our viewers. We are a nonpartisan alternative broadcast. So what that means is we take no political sway in anything. We're just a neutral platform that gives the people a chance to talk. Over the years, I've noticed, or one thing that struck a core with me, is that you would always hear things from the news media, from people that were kind of always in the news, but very rarely did you ever get a perspective from people and what they thought and what their interpretation was. And it really, what we're trying to do at Ripple Effects is break down the barriers so that anyone, doesn't matter education, background, status, doesn't matter about any of those things. This is a chance for collaborative, collective intelligence, for people to come together. And, one of the most encouraging things, I was disappointed in my late 30s. I took a real, hard time realizing, oh, wow, I didn't get to go to university and I didn't get to finish everything I wanted to do. And I had to sit back, take myself and have a good chat with myself and say, hey, that's not always significant of, your involvement with your community is your education and your background. What's significant is your actions. So here we are, Ripple Effects Canada, and that's what we're about. Is the people's voice in a respectful environment, bringing things to the table. So that being said, now bring some topics to the table. We have about 22 minutes before Mr. Kelloway joins us. And sometimes, well, for the most part, actually, Mike has been fantastic. He actually watches this show prior to coming on. And a lot of times he'll make reference to different things that people bring up. So definitely bring some topics to the comments. So who do we have watching? Make sure to put hello in the comments there. Hi, Margie McNeil. I believe, Margie, I know I've asked you this before, but I know you're from Cape Breton. I just don't know what part of Cape Breton. So anyway, our trip included going to 12 different ports in 24 hours. And we traveled around. We left Arichat, Ilmadam, and then we traveled through to Petit de Gras, which is like 5 minutes from my house. And we stopped at Petit de Gras, talked to the fishermen there. Sydney. Thank you, Margie. Then we traveled up to, our first day, we traveled up to Ingonish, Neils Harbor, Margaret's Bay, Pleasant Bay, Bay St. Lawrence. We're putting together a documentary. So this was really exciting to do this because I'd been around the Cabot Trail, but I had never stopped to actually talk and engage with the local people. So I had this opportunity to talk with so many people, locals, and was it ever fun and enlightening? I really had no appreciation for the life of a harvester until actually getting into what it takes and what the day in the life of a harvester is. So I felt it was perfect grounds to start off with my learning skills in formulating a documentary, because we've been doing this. We started last year. We were in Membertou, and so we've been traveling along and combining everything just to get an awareness and public education going on, especially with Indigenous communities, the treaty rights, and then also, the federal aid package and our harvesters. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, there was a grant, 62.5 million was given out by the government, and the harvesters were not included in that. Well, on Friday, they were. So it's going to be interesting for the next couple of days to watch all this come together. That being said, I just want to read off, because I know a lot of you that are joining the broadcast tonight are actually keeping in touch with the topic that we're kind of really focusing on. This is what we tend to do at Ripple Effects. Rather than kind of stream the news, we talk about things that are pertinent and relevant right now, in the here, in the now. And so the fishing was one thing that I really wanted to hone in on. So here's some questions that have come forward from the fishermen for the minister. So on May the 15th, 17th, over the course of 2 days, we've made a tour to 12 ports to speak with fishermen and get their response to the newly released federal aid package. Englishtown, we went up to Englishtown as well. All of the visits to each wharf can be found on Ripple Effects Canada. In summary, the fishermen put forward these questions, fully aware that the minister was planning to attend a virtual broadcast. We anticipate tomorrow night an engaged and supportive audience. Questions in summary. Number one, the announcement where the captain and chairperson are able to receive EI based on previous year's EI. Does that apply to the crew? The crew are paid different than the chairperson. I should have done a sound check. You guys can hear me okay. Margie, can you hear me okay? The half hour before Mike comes on is always my chance to kind of do sound check and make sure everything's on the up and up here. You can hear me or see me okay? Okay. Regarding EI, crew received a set wage per week. They get paid regardless of how much lobster is landed. Okay, thanks, Margie. Awesome. Regarding EI for fishermen, is it based on going fishing this year, or is the requirement that they don't fish to be eligible based on last year? That's a really good question. Number three. The CEWS, the employee wage subsidy, are the regulations going to be made a bit more reasonable and flexible? For example, the month of May is based on January or February 2020 earnings, but fishing season didn't start until the end of April. Additional to note, there are those who had proprietorships last year, but this year are incorporated, thereby the wording disqualifies them. Again, another great question. I want to give a shout out to Terry Butts, Charlotte McClellan, Donalda McCaskill, Josephine Kennedy for submitting, and Lisa Grover for submitting these questions. Number four, will there be a reduction in the amount to qualify for EI in terms of earnings for captains who need to qualify for a summer and a winter claim, and also for crew who need a certain amount of hours to qualify? Number five, will the minister be speaking with Provincial Fish Minister Colwell about deferring payments and interest for those who have borrowed from Fisheries Loan Board for boats and licenses? Did you know that a license can run in like close to $1 million in some areas? I did not know that until this year. Is there any consideration being given to subsidizing the price of lobster per pound to help create domestic markets? A subsidy would benefit twofold. The fishermen would receive a decent price per pound, and then cost to the average Canadian would be lower thereby enabling lobster to be a food staple on the dinner plates of Canadians on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. We just had our first supper the other night, our lobster dinner. It was lovely. It was absolutely perfect. I had a lot of help how to make perfect lobster, and it turned out really good. So I want to say thank you. Number 7, how soon will the applications be available for the minister's announcement on May the 14th? Number 8, with the season starting in turmoil due to COVID restricted markets, what will happen if a crew member, weekly wage, has to be laid off within a few weeks and doesn't have enough to qualify for EI? Will the minister ensure that crew members are given the same coverage as captain and shares person? It's extremely important that crew, weekly wage, are given the same benefit with EI. So I thought those were really great questions. What do you think? Who's on here now? Make sure to say hello. Don't be shy. Please say hello in the comments. It buys me some time to think of, or to go to the next letter I'm going to be reading. So tonight, we're going to be talking with Mike on a couple different topics. The elderly care benefit. I was up in Port Hood. I have friends up there that I call them mom and pop because they're like my parents, Annie and AJ Beaton. And I was up there and they did not know about the benefit. So there's a lot of elderly people out there that might not know. Hi, oh gosh, Cyril, I'm going to say your name wrong. Is it Cyril or Surreal? Give it to me one last time and I will not forget. Aren't those great questions, Margie? I agree. They were put together like I had probably close to 80 to 100 different ways of saying those questions. And so hopefully those are formulated with a little bit of my verbiage and influence, but they were formulated to address the topics. I've had to learn things quite quickly in the lobster industry. So I'm glad I've had a lot of help. And it was quite interesting to see the reaction of some fishermen with a lady walking down on the dock, in a red dress, and I looked like a lobster. And it was really great to have them pause for a moment and chat with me. I really appreciated that, even though I 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't have known the first thing about lobster. So anyway, Mike is coming on. Elderly senior benefit, and then new business. I want to ask him if there's anything out there. Just before we started this, Ripple Effects Canada was going for about a year, but the previous founder to Cape Breton Live TV, Wayne Cressada, I had only met Wayne probably about 4 weeks, a month before he passed away. And yet he had been calling prior to that for me to come up and Cyril, like squirrel, no Q. Cyril. So Cyril, like squirrel, no Q. Swirl. Okay. Swirl, but don't say the Q. Okay, I think I got it. Okay, so Margie, you grew up with Wayne. Well, Wayne had been calling about 6 months previous to this, and he was a little on the heated side. I laugh about it now. We chuckled about it actually quite a few times. And Huey MacArthur, if you're watching, Huey can attest to this. So anyway, Wayne kept calling me and he was a little heated, and he was basically asking me, what was my plans with Ripple Effects? And I said, well, I don't know. We're going forward. We started off, we launched this summer, and well, I founded Cape Breton Live TV, and I said, oh, I'm really happy. I'm so stoked to meet you. I've watched a couple of your shows, and how is there anything I can do? Well, he insisted on coming up. And I didn't go up for the longest time. Of course, 5 kids, leads for a very busy life. Finally, I did go up when I had heard that Wayne was sick and he wasn't letting me on how sick he was. So then I thought, all right, this obviously is a meet that is supposed to happen. And I went up there to meet Wayne, and he had said, at first I was angry, I was upset, Ripple Effects, another double duplicate business in Cape Breton, and I'd started Cape Breton Live TV. But by this point, Wayne was fairly ill, and he had turned around the other way. He was actually in palliative care. I brought all my kids up to meet him, and we sat down They were really well behaved. I was so happy. He gave me a compliment on the kids. And then he said, I want you to take over Cape Breton Live TV. And I was a little unexpected. It was an awkward conversation, obviously in palliative care. And I said, well, I don't know if I'm on the right track. You have a different audience. I don't know your audience. I don't know what they watch, what they care about. And I actually declined it. I said, I really appreciate the offer. I don't need any equipment because, it's not something I have invested a lot of money into equipment. Anyway, so we left it at that. And then the next time I went up, Huey gave me a call. He said, you got to come up. I think you got to come up like now, because he said, I would let you know how things progressed with Wayne. And when I sat down with Wayne this time, he asked me again in a very somewhat of a weak voice, but anyone that knows Wayne knows that he's very forward and, blunt. So he managed to say, you have to take over Cape Breton Live TV. What you're doing with having people, and I'm not trying to brag or toot my own horn. This is not the vision I want to get out here tonight. I just want to express how grateful I am that Wayne was able to say the one thing that he envisioned was people coming together. Now, you got to remember, take old style media where you would, if something was happening, you would have to travel to go catch footage. Or if you wanted to speak with somebody or interview them, you'd have to travel. That's a lot of expense, especially when, in your first couple of years of a broadcast, a social media agency, there's not a lot of money in it. You're really building your brand. And so Wayne was so thrilled to see different people coming on, and even more so because his vision was about giving Cape Breton Island a voice. Well, as soon as he said that was my vision as well, because I grew up in Cape Breton. I left for 27 years and came back. So this was really something. So tonight, the reason I'm bringing this up is because to see the engagement of people watching, that, to put forth in a respectful environment, as frustrated and as upset as people might be about certain topics, to see them come forward and put forth their comments on here and engage really strikes a chord with me, because you're bringing something to the table. You're engaging, and it's not saying that we have any answers on ripple effects. That's not at all what we're saying, but it's just a transparent place to come. And FYI, it's live. So like I said, bloopers, everything. There's a vulnerability here that you can't erase and edit and re-record and polish and touch up. It's live. So I feel it's a really great discussion format. And I just want to say thank you to you guys out there watching. I want to say thank you for supporting our whole team, our incredible team at Ripple Effects, who are learning new skills daily. None of us went to university for something like this. We've just applied the skills that we already had into this format. So that's what I want to say, was thank you, because this is a vision that is not just mine, but a vision of a lot of people that have come together to do this. So just wanted to say thank you. All right, now, the next concern that came up tonight, and I won't throw Mike this one because I wasn't preparing him for this one. Did you know that power in Nova Scotia is under a private entity, which is fine, but I just want to read up more about that. So if you know anything about, the situation to the utility, the power, in Nova Scotia, and you've been studying it and have concerns about the cost of it and so forth, can you message me, or maybe I can chat with you? That would be fantastic. Also, another topic coming up, as much as we want to bring new business, new people, new life to Cape Breton, is there enough places here for rent that would reflect we want to grow? Sometimes I've noticed that we go on about how Cape Breton, the economy, it's really needs, something. It needs life. It needs to, more people to move to Cape Breton. And yet I wonder at sometimes, do we have enough, places to accommodate that? So that's another topic that's coming up. I read the latest article, I think it was Cecil Clark, about the homeless shelters and the initiative there with the porta potties. And okay, my screen is blurry. It's probably because I'm moving around, Leanne. Maybe I'll stay still. How's that? So that was interesting. to listen about that. What else? Well, the potholes, you always hear about the concern of potholes. There's quite a few good jokes and memes that you see about the potholes. The potholes don't seem to bother me so much, but maybe it's because I'm a mother. And when I lived out in Alberta, I lived in a trailer court, and the potholes ensured that people slowed down. And so for me, I mean, that's not a good reason, but the potholes are a topic, but I don't know how much I have to add to that topic. Do you know what I'm saying? Margie. Oh, Margie, yes, you grew up with Wayne, and that I did know. Okay. Um, so what else did we want to talk about? Oh, well, the topic of autonomy has come up. Okay, so the topic of autonomy has come up. Now, I personally don't know enough about autonomy to really go on about it. I've read about it, I've studied it, I've looked at it. It'd be interesting for you to put your comments in the side. What's your comments? Have you kept up on it over the years? I mean, it's been lobbied for what, 15, 20 years now, with certain groups in Cape Breton Island. I want to know your opinion on autonomy. Right? Bring it to the table. Talk about it. Let me know or if you're a little shy about putting your comments on the board, please feel free to message me 902-305-7833. I'm just going through my notes here. Did I tell you that Bernadette Jordan was coming on tomorrow night? I think I did. 8:00. She's coming on. Yeah, so how I get my content for talking about topics is typically I'll be scrolling through and I'll see somebody bring something up in their news feed on Facebook. I mean, Facebook is such a widely used platform in Nova Scotia, East Coast Canada. So we have 9 platforms: Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, you name it, we have it. So the content is usually based on whatever our viewers are kind of talking about in their news feed. So feel free to friend me on Facebook. I went through my whole account a couple weeks ago and I got rid of a bunch of people I didn't know. I narrowed it down to about 100 friends, took it down to ground zero. So feel free to message me and connect on, oh, my screen is blurry. Look at that. Just a second. I'm going to tell the kids to make sure they're off their phones here. I'm going to mute so I'm not yelling. Okay. Yeah, that screen is really blurry. I'm just going to refer to it here. All right. That's really odd. Making sure my connection is nice and tight. How's that, Leanne? Can you see me now? Is it still pretty blurry? We're going to be talking with another show coming up on Wednesday is going to be with a business owner who has been halted, obviously, a lot, like a lot of business owners. It's Fish On. It's a chartered outfit group out of, I want to say Pugwash, Nova Scotia. I might be saying that wrong. But anyway, near Chester. Are you sure the fog is not in? Is it foggy, Brian? Are you sure the fog is not in? Is it foggy? I feel bad, guys. I don't know why there's a weird connection. Sound is great, so as long as we can hear you. Okay, Leanne. What was I talking about? Yeah, so he's coming on Wednesday night, Matt Zito, and he's going to be talking about recipes. He's going to be showing us like some big fish. He's going to be cooking in his kitchen. Tonight at 9:00, the great show I'm a big fan of is Monday Night Jams. Sean O'Connell is going to be heading up Monday Night Jams. That's going to be a good one tonight. Abby's coming on. She has an incredible voice. Have you noticed all the talent that has come forward that you might not have heard of prior to COVID? It's been really great to see on media this all happen and play out. Let me see here if we're close to Mike coming on. And the weather. Oh my gosh. I forgot to say the weather. I'm going to give you the weather report while we're waiting, okay? For Mike to come on. All right. So Tuesday is sunny. Wednesday is sunny. Thursday, sunny. Friday, sunny. Saturday, sunny. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. All sunshine for the next, until next Wednesday. Isn't that great? The sun comes up in the morning at like 5:35. You would know that if you're on my show because I usually chase the sunrise. Oh, Brian, yes. It's pretty clear now. Okay, good picture. Yes, there's no fog here right now, but this morning or yesterday morning there was a lot of fog. Beautiful in Ilm. So you've been here before then, Brian? It's beautiful here in Ilmadam. I live in Little Ants, which is at the very furthest tip that you can possibly go. It's stunning. It's raw. Okay, so the sunset. Now this is important because I live on the side of the island where I don't get to see a lot of sunsets. So if you could be so kind as to try and take some pictures of any sunsets your way and tag Ripple Effects Canada, or if you're an Instagram user, tag the arm at Ripple Effects Canada. I need some pictures of sunsets. Okay. I love doing sunrises, and send me a picture of sunrise as well. But sunsets, I love them. So make sure to tag me. So the sunrise tomorrow is at 5:29 a.m. and the sunset is at 8:33 p.m. tonight and most nights. And it's sunny for the next 7-8 days. Absolutely awesome. I love it. All right, here we go. I have our local MP, Mike Kelloway, on with us. He is in the Canso Cape Breton riding, and I'm going to bring him on with us now. Hello.
Hi.
Wow, look at your shirt.
I know. I'm so sorry.
I love it. That's it. It has pizzazz.
Well, it's kind of like what you just mentioned around the sun. You know, if you stare at it long enough, you'll need to put sunglasses on.
Yes. Hey, I made a dish the other night, and it was an Italian pasta dish, and I thought of you because you'd said a few weeks ago that you really like pasta.
Yes.
I was pretty impressed with myself. I got to say, I used fresh spices, and I used the mortar pesto. Oh yeah, I got right into it. So anyway, thanks to you, I was thought of my Italian recipe book, and
right on. Yeah. Right on.
Sounds delicious.
Well, I wish I was there now. I'm kind of like,
oh yeah, I went all out on the carbs, the garlic bread, you name it.
You know what? You gotta let loose sometimes, and no, I'm doing well. The weekend has been one where it's been manageable in terms of calls from constituents and working with some different groups, and a little bit of yard work, and then of course we had another tragedy with the snowbird accident, and losing a Nova Scotian life, Jennifer Casey. So my heart goes out to her family and her friends and her colleagues. It's what an act of selflessness in terms of the snowbirds, right? Going across the country to bring up the spirits of everyone else, and for this to happen, it's another unspeakable tragedy that is one where you take a deep breath and you pray for those folks and the family and the friends and the colleagues, and just an unspeakable tragedy, but. It's a very, very sad day yet again for Nova Scotians.
It is, Mike, and thank you for bringing that up, because I've seen the posts, and sometimes I feel bad. I don't get enough time to acknowledge everything, but I really appreciate you acknowledging that.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's something that again, with the last 60 days of tragedies, obviously with COVID, and of course the mass shooting, and the young boy who lost his life in Truro, and then just individual type of circumstances we find ourselves in. There's added stress and stressors on all of our lives, and so even more to take time to connect with your family, or utilize the bubble arrangement. And also, if you need someone to talk to, there are people out there to help, and both provincially and federally, and to help everyone.
Mm-hmm. No, it's true. And I honestly don't know. And I've never seen Nova Scotia go through this much all at once. So my heart is wrapped around wondering how it's going to be interesting to see how it rises up again from the ashes. And it's going to take a collaborative effort for sure.
Oh, no doubt about it. Nova Scotia hasn't been immune to provincial tragedy, community tragedy, and we do rally around each other during these times. And the most recent examples are fresh in our minds, but there are so many examples. Whether if you look at the fishery, for example, when there's been a loss of life on sea or underground, or responding to an emergency. Our natural disasters, we come together where we do, have the back of our brothers and sisters in this part of the world, and it's what makes us, I think, incredibly special people to have that servant leadership mentality of putting everyone ahead of yourself, and we have that in spades. There's no question about that.
Now, Mike, I was reading a little bit about your biography tonight again. I wanted to refresh myself on your background, and I found it really interesting, your background with entrepreneur endeavors, and also your role there with NSCC. What do you foresee now, Cape Breton economy? What do you foresee the next 6 to 12 months happening, kind of with this transition, with adapting to everything that's been happening? What do you?
Yeah, I have a bit of a long history with entrepreneurship. 20 plus years ago, I started my own business in my mid 20s, thinking that I knew everything about the world, and didn't. But I couldn't replace the experience that I had from many mistakes that I made, but great people I met along the way. And I know what it's like to be an entrepreneur. I know what it's like to be the manager, to be the bathroom cleaner, to do the books, you're everything when you're an entrepreneur. And at the end of the day, you make sure everyone gets paid before you. Yeah. And so I have a special place in my heart for entrepreneurs, but more than that, entrepreneurship, creating small to medium-sized businesses in Cape Breton and northeastern Nova Scotia is what we've done for centuries, quite frankly. Yes, we've been supported by very kind of large sector anchors like fishing and mining and forestry. But if you look at the number of businesses in our riding, well, it's entrepreneurs, it's small proprietorships that make the economy here whole. And so, yeah, thanks for bringing that up. And during my time at Cape Breton University and at Nova Scotia Community College, I worked in customized training, and I worked in entrepreneurship, and worked in applied research. But to get back to your question, I think that there's a couple of things. There's probably a lot of things I think that will emerge from COVID that I think could help, that we're probably here either on the ground in terms of policy, but also potentially new policy that can emerge from being through a pandemic. One is we need to, in my mind, when it comes to entrepreneurship and access to capital, we need less red tape when it comes to access to capital for operating. And I think we've seen that here in this pandemic. I mean, the first thing, when this crisis hit, was we got to get money out the door to help those that have lost not just their job, but their business overnight. Well, I would say the same flexibility can be used in terms of growing the economy, especially in rural Canada. So that doesn't mean it's no less rigorous in terms of ethics and efficiency in terms of reviewing applications to help small business in this area. But I think there needs to be less red tape. quite frankly.
Mhm.
So that's one piece that I think we can excel. And also looking at our assets, looking at the creative economy, looking at tourism, looking at IT, looking at events management. There's so
Mhm.
many different organizations, businesses that I met over the past year in particular that are up and operating that have taken a major hit with
Yep.
COVID. So we need to
Mhm.
be there for those businesses that are just established.
Mhm.
It's important to reinforce our efforts for those that have been established for some time. But if you're
Mhm.
a small business owner and you've been in operation for a year, you're hanging by a thread
Yep.
anyway. Just by the
Yep.
nature of being an entrepreneur, and then you
Yep.
throw in a pandemic. So we need policies and we need initiatives that are very lean, that
Mhm.
have oversight, in
Mhm.
terms of government oversight and government ethics in terms of ethical programs that meet certain criteria. But we over the past 25 years, and I've experienced this as an end user, the amount of paperwork is laborious. It is
Mhm.
it is kind of it is kind of the antithesis of being an entrepreneur and being innovative. It is, it literally is a forest in
Yep.
terms of paperwork, and we need to get over that. We need to be lean. We need to be adaptable. We need to be flexible in Cape Breton and in northeastern Nova Scotia in
Mhm.
general. The other thing that I think will help with the economy in terms of providing a bit of oomph in the economy is that when you look historically, whether it's been a world conflict or natural disasters of a of a of a biblical kind when it impacts so
Mhm.
many countries, the Great Depression, so forth and so on, the countries in question reinvested in infrastructure or created infrastructure or reinvested in existing infrastructure in the country and in the regions within the country. So that is,
Mhm.
investing in highways or roadways or water and wastewater or people for that matter. And I
Right.
think the key thing here is we need to look at a couple of things that Canada does well. We need to invest in people
Yep.
first and foremost, and we also need to invest in the infrastructure by which people find themselves in. And if you
Mhm.
look at those two particular pieces, it's where my office has been heading for some time.
Mhm.
Is to look at we need keeping our eye on the ball on those two things. It's like Wayne Gretzky. His famous quote was, "He's not going to where the puck is. He's going to where the puck is going to be." And
Yep.
so, from a Cape Breton and northeastern Nova Scotian perspective, we
Mhm.
look at where the puck is going to be, and I believe that the puck is going to be in infrastructure potential in our municipalities, in our First
Yep.
Nations communities, and also investing in people for what was coming anyway, and what was
Mhm.
coming and what has been coming is around, the era of advanced manufacturing, AI, for example. And I don't want to
Mhm.
get too kind of out there, but if you look at the jobs in the next 10 years, where artificial intelligence will be playing a major role. It's going to be in the truck driving business. It's going to be in other capacities where humans now are doing the work. So we need to adjust now for
Yep.
that, and we need to prepare for that
Yep.
now for that. And that's going to be
Yep.
that's to me is key. And I think COVID has done a lot of things, many of it negative, if not all. But some of the I don't want to say benefits because that's moronic, but some
I
of
know what you mean, though.
yeah, so
Yeah.
some of the decisions that it is putting before us for
Yeah.
us to make is around looking at our workforce now for not
Right.
that far off into the future, looking at those opportunities around the creative economy,
Yep.
looking at the tourism opportunities, but also, quite frankly, I mean, I'm bullish on some of the manufacturing companies that are in our riding.
Yep.
Unbelievable, state of the
Mhm.
art, world class, amazing.
Oh,
How
yeah.
do we build on that?
Yeah.
And then how do we work um, to create the narrative that rural Nova Scotia, um, rural Canada, can be a beacon for new business, to attract
Oh.
existing businesses that are in the urban area that want to go to a place so that they're have a quality of life for their employees. I'm thinking of, major tech companies, and people might say, Mike, you're cashing your checks too high and you're thinking too big. Well, I think we should think big. I think
Mm-hmm.
we should think smart and strategic,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's okay to
Yep.
think big, and we
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't make allowances for that. I think we have major ingredients that would enable us to grow this economy in different ways than we have been, and
Mm-hmm.
I believe we have that intellectual capability, that capacity to do so. And the only thing
Mm-hmm.
that I think is holding us back, there are many things that are holding us back. Some of them are beyond our means, but I think if we focus on the solutions within those problems, we can make some major movements. But there's also this ability to know that anytime that I've traveled across, I've had a great career. When I worked at NSCC, I worked. I've been around the world. I've been in Australia,
Mm-hmm.
Papua New Guinea. I've been to Norway, promoting NSCC, but also NSCC doing major projects internationally in the business world.
Yep.
Every time we've implemented a major world-class initiative on behalf of NSCC, it was with Nova Scotia talent. You know,
Yes. Yep.
if you look at Papua New Guinea, for example,
Yep.
Papua New Guinea has one of the major oil and gas deposits in the world, and
Mm-hmm.
we trained a lot of the nationals there. When it comes to renewable energy, we've played a major role across this world in terms of
Yep.
training people in that respect. That's Nova Scotia Community College talent. That's Nova
Yep.
Scotians.
Yep.
We can do this. And
Mm-hmm.
we are doing it in many cases, but we need now to grow it.
Yep. No, and it's thrown us a curveball that none of us were ever prepared for, but definitely watching and sitting back and noticing, like, even the elderly people, Mike, the way that they're challenging their computer skills and learning new
Yeah,
skills has been really something.
absolutely.
We had a chance. I think I told you we had a chance to travel around to 12 different ports the other day. So
Yes.
I admire you for the work you do consistently, because I did that once and I was exhausted. So that was really something.
Yeah, it's a
But
workout.
oh my goodness. And just talking with people, like, I don't know how your brain retains everything, Mike. So I just kudos to you and your team.
I got to tell you, I love every aspect of that.
Yeah.
I've learned so much about this riding, the people in it, our place in Canada, as a result of getting to know so many people in this riding. I mean,
Yeah.
we have so many great things that are happening now in different sectors, in the not-for-profit world, in the education world,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's a good time to be alive in this riding, even with a pandemic and the opportunities that are before us. I'm very excited about working with all the groups that
Mm-hmm.
we've established relationships with, and even those that we have, maybe not deep relationships, but that's part of growing. It's part of
Yeah.
connecting. It's part about collaborating. So yeah, I get energized. I got to tell you, if I'm on a fishing dock or in a computer business or in a not-for-profit organization facility,
Yeah.
I love every aspect about it. I find it invigorating, and more than that, I find it hopeful.
Mm-hmm. No, I resonate with those thoughts and comments. Now, healthcare, Mike, I've noticed lately on your solo page there that you've been doing some updates and with healthcare. Can you kind of bring us up to speed with what that platform looks like right now with the essential frontline workers? And
Yeah, sure. And most people that know me know of my connection to healthcare as a volunteer, and very important to me. I've played along with many other great people, an active role in recruiting doctors to the riding prior to being
Mhm.
elected, and have done so since being elected. And so it's very important. Obviously, it goes without question. But in terms of the federal government's responsibility, the federal government has stepped up to the plate to invest approximately $3 billion in collaboration with the provinces and territories across the country
Mhm.
to make that investment into providing a top up for those that are working in healthcare. Now, one of the key ingredients here is that the federal government has given this money to the provincial government, and the provincial government sets forth the criteria by which they term what is essential skills, or who's going to get a top up over someone else that may not necessarily be working for the Nova Scotia Health Authority, but are providing, needed care. So we've been taking those comments that we're receiving primarily on email and sending them to the province in terms of people's, in many cases, gratitude, but also concern that although they don't work with the Nova Scotia Health Authority, but they do work in a private sector healthcare facility, they're looking at why are they not the ones that are getting a bump up. So we've been passing that on to the province as well, and playing that role to say, here's what we're hearing. These are things that you may want to look at in deciding future efforts to establish criteria.
Now, I know one of the concerns, and I haven't seen anything yet, but is there anything? I saw student grant. Can you elaborate on that, the student grant, and let us know if there's anything that was mentioned about international students?
Yeah. So one of the great things about this show and being on it is I get a chance to tell people the work that's happening, but also the gaps we're identifying. But to go over the student grant application, our grant initiatives. So we have a few of these, and I'm kind of going by memory now, so bear with me on it. But we have certainly the Canada Summer Jobs, where we're providing 100% of the funding for this summer, and that's 100% of the minimum wage. Now, with the Canada Summer Jobs program, we've extended the duration of it. So basically, it is a summer program, but it can also happen in the fall, or it could happen before February 21st, to give people a chance to perhaps put in play part-time work or whatever the case may be. So that's one. The other is that there's basically a stipend that students will get, and students that have dependents that have disabilities or whatever the case may be, that they'll receive, if they can't find work, basically a monthly stipend that will be provided to them. But then there's some interesting nuances. I mean, there's a youth corps program where students that volunteer their time will get a stipend. As a result of almost like a community-based project, students working with a community organization to look at trying to mitigate a problem or trying to solve a problem, and so they receive a stipend for that work. So, and then there are other mitigating factors that we're putting into play in terms of increasing bursaries and things of that nature for our students. Now, a lot happening for not just students, but young people between the ages of 15 and 30 in some of those categories. Now, when it comes to international students, no one can say highly enough of the immense contributions that international students have added to Cape Breton Canso, whether it's in Antigonish and surrounding areas or in Cape Breton University. Those students from, I think, 60 countries provide not just a richness in terms of the social fabric, but also they're working. Many of them are contributing to the economy, working in different businesses, and some have decided to stay and set up businesses here. So the immense gratitude and the richness that provides is unquestioned. When it comes to providing international student supports, I think we need to do more. As an MP, I believe we need to do more, and we need to look at how do we, assist and help those international students as much as we can. In the time that we have, and who knows how long COVID is going to last. So I would say that if you look at a gap area, wherever we can provide supports for international students, we've made some adjustments by which, I think we've extended the hours by which they can work, because most international students, I think, can work up to 20 hours. and that's it if they're full-time students. So I think we've made some modifications and changes to that. But in terms of getting some support that would be similar to what domestic students get, that certainly it's not the case. And I think we need to look at ways in which we can assist international students.
And I was up to Port Hood over the weekend just to see friends of mine, an elderly couple. And I'm just going to touch on the elderly care. For viewers watching, there's a lot of elderly people that aren't connected to the internet. They're not computer savvy sometimes. Yeah. So it was interesting that they had no idea about the benefit this month that was coming for the elderly. But can you elaborate on that benefit, Mike?
Sure. So if you're receiving Old Age Security, OAS now, you're going to get an additional one check of $300 probably very soon. That's a COVID response. If you're receiving a guaranteed income supplement, you would receive an additional $200. Now, many, in fact, receive OAS and the guaranteed income supplement. So that would be a total of $500.
$500, yep.
And so, this is a response to just, in essence, COVID. Also, we've upped considerably the amount of money that we're investing in the New Horizons program, with a focus of obviously looking at seniors and vulnerable populations within the COVID lens. So that's working with community organizations, quite frankly. Many that, we have so many great community organizations in our riding. And soon the New Horizons program will go live in terms of applications. But before that happens, I want my office to be able to get that information out to as many community organizations in our riding as possible. So, if there's an interest, they get the application in. Now, there's no guarantees. If you send in an application, that's a given, because it'll be these are weighed and they're discussed by a panel and so forth and so on. But I think we have an incredible network of community organizations, and I wouldn't be fool enough to try to rhyme off 10, because there are just so many and so many different municipalities that I think we could do some really good work. And it's not so much a challenge, but my hope and my expectation is, once the information is out there for many of the community agencies, that we flood the zone with applications from our riding, because I think there's a lot we can do together collaboratively to help seniors, and at the same time helping organizations that have done such great work for decades in community development.
Well, and that leads to my last topic, and I think you touched on it actually, was tourism. I mean, it's going to be impacted, obviously.
Yeah. I tell you, it will be. We're starting to see some, glimpse of hope in terms of, the premier last week mentioning that golfing and some other type of activities will be opened up, and that's great. But I think it's safe to say, and I'll always be honest with everyone in this job and outside of this job. I'm always honest to give my thoughts and my opinions. There is no question that this season is going to be different from last season. There's no two ways about it. And so what we need to do is we need to hold the ground. And we need to ensure that small and medium-sized operators, in particular in the tourism field, are taken care of in terms of keeping their head above water. So when you look at some of the announcements that were made a couple of weeks ago, where COA is getting $110 million to support businesses that do not connect to the existing COVID responses on the business side, I really would encourage people, businesses in the tourism sector, to reach out to a COA in Sydney and Port Hawkesbury, to ask about the programs that they have. Now, this was announced last week, and I say this with a little bit of tongue in cheek. Most of the programs that we've put out there, it's been quick. So a lot of the framework or criteria, in some cases, is not necessarily in place. But it's like I put it this way: it's like changing the tires on the car while the car is going. And we've been doing a great job. Our public servants, amazing. amazing what they've done. But I would suggest and make the recommendation, if you're out there and you're running a tourism business in Arichat or Manitou or Mabou or Guysborough County or Harvey-Boucher, is to reach out to ACOA, explain your situation, and allow them to help you triage the challenges that you have. That money is designed for operating. It's designed for businesses that have tried to secure investment through other measures that we've announced, and they do not meet the criteria. That's what that money is there for. So ACOA is there to help, to assist. I'm also keen to hear how your experience has been with that too. So, feel free to email my office on that, and where we can help as well. So, as you know, we're here to help morning, noon, and night. But I would suggest for those businesses in the tourism sector, and in particular, reach out to ACOA and to sit down and have a discussion on your specific business and your specific challenges.
Mike, you have a great pulse on Cape Breton Island, I've noticed, and probably likely because you grew up here as well. Your family, everything is from Cape Breton. So I think it's great that you stay in touch and resonate with the people that live here. I think it's really great to have you resonate with that, and the pulse you have on Cape Breton is pretty good. I really have learned a lot spending the Monday night updates with you. So thank you.
Nice. I'm enjoying the time with you. I think what we're doing is getting information out that is exceptionally important to everybody. And again, I don't have all the answers, but when you have the questions, I try to find them. And if I do have the answers, you'll hear them. But if I don't, we'll search.
That's right. I want to acknowledge our viewers tonight. Going from the top here, Leanne Young LeBlanc. And I know, Leanne, you're waiting to hear from Bernadette Jordan tomorrow night. Margie McNeil, night. Brian Morgan from Glace Bay. Surreal, another fisherman. Where are we? Oh, Paul Strom from Shetty Camp.
Oh, Paul.
Hello.
Hi, Paul.
That was nice. Nice to see Paul on here tonight. So that's nice. Really great, you guys, to see that. So viewers, feel free. I'm sure Natasha's there. She'll put up the link again to Mike. You can contact him directly at his office or email him. Mike, thanks for coming on again on Monday night. Really appreciate it. Thank you to your team as well.
Okay. Thank you, Rebecca. Take care. Bye, everybody.
You too. You as well. Have a good night.
You too.
And that was a local MP, Mike Kelloway, with Ripple Effects Canada, Ripple Effects Cape Breton. So I just want to again say thank you to our viewers out there. Coming up at 9 o'clock, you guys, is our Music Monday Night Jam. Let us know if there's any topics you want to chat about. It doesn't have to be necessarily something current. It can be anything. Also, we're looking for more host reporters. We're looking for people that enjoy cooking, that enjoy the history of Cape Breton. I have such a reflection on I scratched my glasses so bad. We're looking for people that can bring some content to the table. So do you have, parents that have stories that they wouldn't mind telling, sitting down over a cup of tea and sharing on Ripple Effects Canada? This is what we would like to get out to our viewers. Is there anyone out there that enjoys cooking? Even a simple dish, anything like that, because Cape Breton is known for the people, especially the kindness, the camaraderie. As soon as I pass that causeway, every time, doesn't matter if we just go across for groceries, as soon as I hit that causeway, put up your thumbs and likes if you can resonate that as soon as you see Welcome to Cape Breton, you almost take an exhale. So that's what I'm looking for on Ripple FX Canada. I want to also give a shout out to my team, Dylan DeVoe, Sean O'Connell, Marie St. John, Janet Dermody, Andre Desjardins. I want to give thanks to everyone, Sinead in Ontario. Thank you to my entire team for just being incredible and supportive. And I just wanted to acknowledge that tonight. Thank you to the viewers as well. So tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, you should have heard me squealing in the kitchen today when I finally got a confirmation that the minister was coming on. I'm just blown away that she's going to give us some time there tomorrow night and answer questions. I think it's really great. So thanks everyone for joining us tonight, and have a lovely evening. Stay tuned. 9:00 Monday Night Jam with Sean O'Connell and Abby. She has an incredible voice. Talk to you soon, everyone. Bye-bye.